right. Full screen. How do I do that? I should have figured this out before. There we go. Great.
Yeah.
So how are you doing today?
I'm very good, thanks. How are
Great.
you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Actually, it's evening there for you today in London.
Yeah.
How was the Borderline premiere last night in London?
It was really great, actually. Yeah. We sort of had a great time, really. It was a small but select audience, but I would expect that with this project. It's fairly sort of obscure and off the map, and really, I just wanted to have an opportunity for the band to play, because it's a sort of jazz, in inverted commas, project, which really means improvisation. It's difficult to rehearse it, if you know what I mean. So putting it in front of an audience is the way to do it, and they loved it. So we had a great time.
Wonderful, bringing you together with poet Calvin.
Kelvin Kokorin.
Yeah.
And he was there, sort of reading the poems in person. So he sort of did a little talk about them, and then read them, and then we played them. Which maybe sounds a little overly serious, but in a sense, it gives a great context to the songs, because in my work with Wang Chung, obviously, I would usually write my own lyrics. There's a couple of examples where I've worked with other people. In fact, a whole load of examples actually, but they never really saw the light of day. But on our last album, Taser Up, we did a cover of a song, and obviously the lyrics for that were written. And but yeah, working with someone else's text is a very interesting exercise for a songwriter like me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have this is volume 3 of two other albums that you have here. With, let me see, you have Poets here with
it's a piece called Road Through.
Yeah, Simon Smith and David Hurd on volume 2 with the Canterbury rock band Sid Arthur.
That's right.
Yeah, they're on the brink of releasing their second album on Universal.
They are, which I had the great privilege to hear recently, because Joel McGill, who's the bass player in Sid Arthur, was doing the sound for us at the Borderline last night. So he's a good friend, and a great sound engineer as well, and great bass player. And so they've gave me a copy of the CD, which isn't pressed up yet, I don't think, but it's great. There's one track that I think you're going to be hearing on the radio quite a lot. So.
Wow, way cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. This album seems to be a collaboration of art. Really, you have poets, and also you have a well-known UK artist, Anna Fuster, who did the album cover, title, and letterpress. How did you become to work with her?
She's actually a friend, well, the wife of a friend of mine. For a while, I taught songwriting at the university here in Canterbury. Actually, there are 2 universities in Canterbury. There's Kent University, and I taught at the other one. And there's a guy there, Robert Stillman, who's an American, one of your compatriots. Lovely guy, great musician. And his wife Anna does specialist sort of screen printing and various sort of book printing stuff. And so I asked her whether she'd be interested in creating a sort of illustrations for the poems. So I think particularly if you see the album on vinyl, obviously the 12-inch format gives a really nice size to her illustrations with the booklet, Kelvin's poetry, and the whole thing is really like a very nice little package, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very vibrant collection of art.
Yeah.
So, I was listening earlier to your album, the release 2012 of Wang Chung, Taser. Is this your latest album since then?
Yes, it is. Yeah, this will be the most recent thing I've done. Yeah, so before that was Taser Up, the Wang Chung album, 2012, as you say.
Yeah.
So this is the latest.
And before that, you had a album 2007 and one in 2008 as well with the this same group as well, right?
That's right. Also with the quartet. At that time, the quartet was a different sort of lineup. I suppose the nature of jazz is that you tend to be working with different musicians, the chemistry of bands is much looser, and you sort of work with different people, whereas in rock bands, the bands tend to sort of be the personalities who are involved, you know what I mean? So the chemistry there is very important. In jazz, it's more like going for the sort of top guns, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on those first couple of albums, I was, for instance, working with an amazing saxophone player called Paul Booth, and he sort of contributes a whole lot to that. But what I'm sort of trying to do, I suppose, artistically, as it were, is, obviously I've had long experience working in rock bands, a little experience working with jazz now, and my aim with the sort of current Jack Hues and the quartet is to try and create a sort of hybrid, where I'm working with experienced and really talented young jazz players. But the spirit of the project is that we're a band, if you know what I mean, rather than that we're just a bunch of individuals getting together and jamming. And again, the purpose of doing these streaming gigs was partly to start generating that feeling of the band as a sort of unit in the sense that I know it in rock music, And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one striking thing that I noticed right away is the essence that you were creating with the quartet, how jazz had traditionally worked with poetry and
Yeah,
other aspects of art, and how you're collaborating with other artists in London. Is that an intentional feature of your art today?
it is. Yeah, yeah. I think um, with Wang Chung, seeing that as my career as a sort of rock musician, it's rock bands can be quite insular. Do you know what I'm saying? That it's sort of like they are what they are. When you bring in outside influences, they very float on the periphery. It's quite hard to do collaborative work, Although I guess we did that when we did some of the movie scores and so on. But yeah, my sort of quest as a songwriter is to try and sort of expand the territory that I cover. My interests in music are very wide. I listen to a lot of classical music, which includes older classical music, sort of Beethoven, Mozart, that sort of thing, but also a lot of modern classical music. So the piece that I'm really into at the moment is by a guy called Hans Abrahamson, called "Let Me Tell You." It's a really amazing piece, actually, for sort of like an orchestra and a soprano solo singer. But that's a sort of territory I'd like to sort of move into in many ways. And so it is, using poetry, using maybe orchestral resources as well, and maybe jazz resources, and creating these sort of hybrid pieces.
Yeah, and reviewing earlier interviews, you had spoken about how one of your earliest influences was some of that early British punk from the 1970s, and I was curious after reading that and hearing some of those things is were you a fan of Joy Division?
You know what? I never was a great fan of Joy Division.
No.
I've subsequently got more into them. I think when I was sort of doing coming out of or coming onto the music scene in England in the late '70s, there were a bunch of bands that the Smiths is another band, who I thought were very sort of led by the sort of literary content of what they were doing, and sort of like, I'm sure they'll forgive me for saying this, but they probably care what I think, but sort of amateurishness in their approach to the music, which was very much what punk was about. It was about non-professionalism, it was about sort of self-expression and all that. And that's all great, and it was very inspiring for me, actually, having been through 4 years of music college and stuff at that time. It was very sort of liberating, to sort of think outside of that sort of box that I was finding myself in. But I was more interested in bands at that time that, for me, was sort of more driven by the music. So I would put a band like, say, Susie and the Banshees, for example, as a band that were a bigger influence for me. And there are all sorts of bands that we sort of sometimes had the opportunity to work with at that time.
Hmm. Absolutely, and you've had an amazing arrangements with various different artists, and that I've been had the joy of listening to um, over the past few days. And I tell you that I've come to enjoy your quartet, and I only wish that I was in London to see you guys live at the Canterbury.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything that you feel that you need to express to your fans and to your audience, in particular, to your inspiration to this album?
Well, I'd encourage any sort of, well, anybody anywhere, but any sort of Wang Chung fan to sort of check it out. I don't know how you feel, whether you see there's any kind of connection between what I'm doing with this project and the work with Wang Chung. For me, there's a sort of DNA that I have that sort of imprints itself on everything that I do. But no, I think this is, for me, it's, you know, I've written songs since I was 12 years old, and I still think that it's a valid and sort of vital way of writing music. And these 6 songs that form the thesis on the ballad, I think, they're very sort of concentrated, distilled examples of where I've got to as a songwriter. So they're not for everybody, but one of the reasons I wanted to sort of do some interviews and try and get some wider attention for this work is that I do think that it's accessible. Yeah, and audiences that we play it to are sort of really touched by the songs. So I feel that it deserves a wide audience. So I'd encourage anybody to listen to it, with an open mind.
Absolutely, and I think that your fans will love it as I do.
Great. Well, thank you, Dave.
You're very welcome, Jack, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. It was a pleasure.
Real pleasure. Thank you for getting in touch.
Great. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.